All right.
So, welcome to the ADHD podcast, Anime Depression at High Definition. Uh, it is just a fun project, we'll see how this goes. Just two people rambling about whatever's really on their mind this day. Co-host, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Nick, and I have no idea why we decided to do this, but I think it's gonna be pretty poggers.
And I am Kyle, and with that out of the way, I think
Uh,
Nick had something he wanted to talk about.
I'd like to start today's episode talking about the GOP Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene from, I believe, Georgia's 14th House of Representatives district. Um,
They have
and the
14
fact that
districts.
they have quite a few. I believe how many throw those.
And just so you're all aware, I am painfully ignorant to most of the political and or government spectrum, which is where I get most of my news from Nicholas here. He is my informant. I don't watch the news. I just listen to him. He is
Dude,
my news.
that is not a good decision, but here we go. All right. So, anyways, it doesn't matter how many they have because Marjorie Taylor Greene has claimed this past month that a Jewish secret space laser is what caused the wildfires in California.
Ooh, exciting. All right. So just all rationale and common sense aside, how does she think that this who does she think's controlling this space laser? How did this happen?
Okay. Okay. So, to give you a little more background on this wonderful individual, here are some of the other things she believes in that we should just get out of the way before we start. Um, we've got the classic 9/11 was an inside job.
Ah,
Pretty standard classic conspiracy theory here. We have Obama's a Muslim. Still, pretty rational for a conspiracy theory so far. Not too bad. Um, Now here's where we start to get the spicy one. She thinks all the school shootings, like Parkland, Sandy Hook, and the Las Vegas one, which isn't a school shooting but still, was staged.
as in
It
performance.
faked. Yeah, no, they were all actors. No children died at Sandy Hook.
Wow, that's a pretty bold statement.
Yeah. Um. So I'm not entirely sure who she specifically thinks controls it, but she I think this is actually her real thing. Yeah. So there's a company from Israel that they're kind of like the SpaceX there. They've got their own little Elon Musk wanting to shoot fucking cars into space or whatever. And she thinks that they made some sort of a laser that they're hiding in space, and they fired at California to cause the fires that were around, I believe, last year. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, completely rational. Today's day and age, people have been going up into space constantly with lasers and shining them down. Most of them just, the low intensity lasers that you get at like a Walgreens. But no, I could definitely see that some guy definitely took his personal space jet up into orbit and took one of those lasers. Maybe he put a magnifying glass in front of it. You ever do that with like
Oh yeah, you got
ants?
like you got the ant, and
And you have
then
like the
you like
magnifying glass and you burn it. This is just like a massive one in space, right?
yeah, you get how like at some of those solar farms they'll get like a bunch of mirrors pointing in on one point so that they can get like high intensity on like one like really good solar panel instead of having a bunch of like mediocre ones around in a circle.
Is that actually a thing?
Yeah, that's not like an actual thing.
Oh,
Let
that's
me
pretty
see.
efficient. Why haven't I been doing that? I should put up some mirrors around my house. Get free
Yeah,
electricity.
dude, it's like a legitimate thing. It's like I think the logic is it's like cheaper to build like one like I don't know the percent, so don't expect anything of this to be like accurate, but the idea is solid. Let's say you could either build like 10 like 5% efficient solar panels or like one 60% efficient solar panels or one 60% efficient solar panel. You just get a bunch of mirrors and point it at the 60% one so that you can get like the most sun on it and it like gets more power than otherwise.
Ah, that's pretty sweet.
And speaking of space, did you see that Jeff Bezos has quit being CEO of Amazon to go start his own space thing?
I was wondering about that. I had no idea where you're going with that transition because I heard Jeff Bezos step down from Amazon, but I didn't know it was in order to
Yeah,
start developing
he's
his own space program.
yeah, I'm on the website right now and it appears that it's called Blue Origin. Um it's actually founded a while ago, 2008, according to this Wikipedia page.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was initially focused on suborbital space flight. Things like planes and stuff like that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's wanting to go into outer space or actually become like a proper, you know, company when it comes to shipping people around, like Boeing making their 747s.
Yeah,
Um,
that's. Dude, honestly, I think this is a huge step. Having both Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos working in aerospace, I think is huge because a lot of people complain about like private companies trying to take over and monopolize and they're not going to hold themselves to as high as a standard as like a government corporation might. But in some cases, it's actually better if we outsource to private companies because they can just get more funding than the government will ever put into it, which is like the whole reason why we haven't had a space like program here in a very long time, or at least not a very active one in the past 20 years. uh, so kind of getting these guys with their rich money out here to go, all right, let's go build a rocket and let's go to Mars. I think it's great. I'm all for it. I'm down for it. I'm here.
it's definitely interesting because I've noticed recently that NASA themselves actually has been outsourcing a good bit of their stuff to SpaceX. I actually saw today that I think they just got another contract from NASA just recently.
Wow. Well, because I always
Uh,
found that's funny how like we were the first ones to the moon, right? But
mhm.
then, also to be clear, we are in the Americas. So
I
if
think it was
anyone's
first.
watching from another country, then wow, we made it far. But
Why are you doing this? Don't you
yeah,
have
why are
better
you
things to
here?
do? Aren't you guys out of
Um,
lockdown?
yeah, but where was I going with this? Oh yeah, so we're the first ones that made it to the moon, right? But
Yeah,
as
I
of
think it
late,
was first one with feet on the moon. I
I
think
guess
that
yeah, because I think the Russians orbited or something, and
yeah
like
they got like a robot or something. But
I think
first,
the Chinese have landed.
flag on the moon.
But we've been using Russian rockets to get us to the ISS for years, and it's like we supposedly beat these guys in the space race, yet they're the ones still in operation. We're using their equipment to get to the ISS. I just felt that was kind of like ass backwards for what we were trying to do
Yeah,
originally.
yeah. Well, the SpaceX definitely has had quite a few hiccups recently.
Did you hear
I
about
think
the
like three
rocket?
days ago.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
rocket
that's what I
that
was going
blew
to.
up. Yeah,
Yeah, but it's definitely interesting as well because SpaceX is kind of just a random space company. It's not
they're not
specifically
super
on.
focused. I
Yeah,
mean,
because he's
I
trying to
feel
do
like
the Starlink thing.
Elon Musk himself has ADHD, and he can't just sit down and focus on one space program. He's like, all right, we're gonna do everything, guys. We're gonna get us to Mars. We're gonna inhabit the moon. We're gonna build what is those like big dome things around the sun that just take all the
Oh,
energy?
like the big like solar sphere.
Dyson sphere. That's what they're called.
Yeah.
That's his next
No, but
project. I'm calling it right here.
he's definitely very unorganized. Because on the one hand, I don't know how much you know about Starlink, but his whole idea of like the high-speed satellite internet, right?
Yeah.
That's very simplified. It's a very interesting thing if
No, that's a
you want
perfect
to know more
description.
about it. Yeah, but
High speed internet.
it's he's trying to do that, and supposedly he's got over 10,000 users on it so far, and it's holding up well.
Dang.
But at the same time, that same company is also trying to get to Mars. He's trying to get to the moon. He's just trying to do so many different tasks, and SpaceX is not a very profitable company. I believe it loses money most quarters, and it's just being kind of propped up by Tesla. So, what's your thoughts on that?
I mean that's kind of how it's been for the government too. It was
I,
pretty it was a pretty losing. There wasn't really much that the government could like fund for it, and there's not much you get back. It's kind of like it's an investment for
mhm.
the future. I think you're kind of it looks like you're throwing out money right now, but when the Earth gets consumed by the sun in 10,000 years, I don't know if that's exact. Don't quote me, please don't.
I think it's
Uh,
like 10 million.
10 million, whatever the age is, eventually we're gonna have to move off. Honestly, we're gonna have to move off this planet before the sun even expands to consume the Earth because we're just gonna either overpopulate or just run out of natural resources.
Well, that's another interesting one. I believe it was Elon that wants to try and mine asteroids.
See, that is. What's he gonna get from that? Like, is this like Minecraft? Like, are there like diamonds on the asteroids or something? Like, what's the purpose of mining? We have rock on the Earth. The Earth is a rock. Why
Okay,
would we
so
mine asteroids?
there's two reasons we could try and mine. I think it's asteroids and comets. If I didn't do very well in any science class, but if I remember correctly, comet is just an asteroid made of water. Well, specifically ice. Yeah, there. If I remember, and so the initiative for getting a comet would be fresh water because there's not going to be salt in it because it's just space water. But
Hmm.
for meteors, sometimes they'll have precious metals in them, things like gold, iron.
Dude, so this is Minecraft, dude. There's gold.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right, all
effectively.
right. Give me
Did
the
you ever
iron
play
pick.
that
Give me an
that
iron pick. I'm
space?
going up there.
You ever play like the Tekkit pack
Oh wait,
in
yeah, yeah,
Minecraft?
yeah. I played that.
Yeah, you know how you would like shoot up to like other planets and like mine stuff and then bring it back to like your Earth base or whatever?
Dude,
Same idea as that pretty much.
Minecraft. Minecraft becomes reality.
Dude, Elon Musk is just he's just both so ahead of and so behind his time.
I
He's
know.
trying to
He's
he's
trying to
trying to
stay
bring us
cool
real
with.
life Minecraft.
Dude, yeah, I'm all for that. I'd be down for real life Minecraft.
Dude, okay, now here's an interesting one, right? I believe it was Elon who a lot of people weren't a big fan of this. He talked about he would be willing to give people loans to let them fly to Mars and they would work off their debt on Mars. Now, is this, in your opinion, space slavery or great opportunity?
Wait. So Elon would give
So
so
let's say it
random
costs
people.
30,000 to fly you to Mars, right?
Yeah.
He would. That's a very unrealistic number, but just go with it. He would give you a $30,000 like loan,
IOU.
and you would fly to Mars or the moon or wherever he
Okay, and then you just
promised
work
that he would
off
fly you,
that debt there.
and you would work there to work off your debt to him.
I mean, if someone is consenting to that, I don't think there's really a problem to step in. I don't. Maybe there is. I guess it would depend.
Well, people are arguing what's stopping him from just going, haha, you're now my space slaves. If you don't work, I'll turn your oxygen off.
I guess yeah, but I mean that's where it's like a judge of character. Like, obviously, if you don't trust Elon Musk, I they're not going to be the one accepting that kind of loan. And if
That's
you
true.
do trust Elon Musk and accept that loan, I mean that's kind of on you then. You're putting your faith in him, unless you somehow get like some contract or something where you go, all right, in the event of such and such, you can't kill me, you can't use me for food, and you can't use me as like a test dummy. So
Yeah, well, what I think is most interesting is I think that a lot of the fanboys who would really be interested in accepting that probably wouldn't actually be allowed to because they don't meet the physical requirements for space travel.
what kind of people
Because
are
you
you
need,
talking about? Like,
well, no, because like
talking about like
legitimately,
the
it
League of
takes.
Legends neckbeards that sit in their mother's basement.
What you mean yourself? Anyways,
I'm not in the basement. I'm in upstairs room.
you gotta think like it's very strenuous to like travel in space. You experience like some like what 15 G's or something like that.
No. Dude, did you not? Okay, so fighter pilots experience a lot of G-force. I think it's somewhere between like 6 to 9.
8. Yeah. Okay.
But
Astronauts.
astronauts only experience I think 3 to 5, which is
Yeah.
ironically about the same that you experience on most intense roller coasters. So
Really?
yeah. Let's see. Astro.
So you just have to be smaller than like one seat at Great America.
Essentially, you just have to be able to ride flight deck without passing out, and you're good to go.
Yeah, but like I don't know. Like, do you even think? Because I don't think that the first things we're gonna want to send to Mars or the Moon, if like we're going there to set up a colony, would be people. I think that would be a poor choice. I think the first thing we should send is robots to build like some like biodome where people can like actually live, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you're gonna have to send a rocket that works as a living quarters for however long it takes to build, the habitable zone.
Yeah,
So,
it's gonna
do
take a
you
while.
do you think that it's gonna be 10 years, 20 years, 50 years before we see at least some building on Mars? Do you think
I
that
think in our lifetime, in the next 100 years, this century, the 21st century, we will see the start. Probably not the completion. Maybe not like a full building, but like the start or the planning of construction on the moon. Because I think
on the
that
Moon or Mars?
on the moon, because that is you need the moon first before you can go to Mars. Because what that if we build a base on the moon, what that allows us is an easier launch point to Mars. Because part of the issue with the Earth is the gravitational force is like so it takes
It's
a lot
thick.
more.
It's
Thick,
dummy thick.
so you need a lot more fuel to get out of the Earth's atmosphere. But if you send a rocket that just has enough to get you out of the Earth's atmosphere into the moon, then on the moon you have another station set up with a rocket that has a lot more fuel on it. Well, you could have the same amount of fuel on it, but it would use a lot less because the atmosphere or like the gravitational pull on the moon is a lot less than that of the Earth. So you would need less fuel, less speed to get off the Earth, or the moon. So you'd have an easier time getting to Mars. So I think we need that moon as kind of a checkway point to go, all right, we'll get people from Earth to the moon, and then we'll go moon to Mars.
Interesting. Now, we landed on the moon first, like boots on the ground, and I believe it was 1969.
All right.
why do you think that in the last, what, 51 years, coming up on 52, we haven't seen many return missions besides Russia putting boots on the moon and then China doing that more recently?
Well, I like I said earlier, a lot of it I think comes from just lack of funding. They had to cut a lot of programs. I mean, they cut the Apollo, then they cut something else, and then all they had was the space shuttle, and then they eventually shut that down too. Um, I think a lot of it just has to do with funding. The government can't solely support this, which is why I think we need these private investors to start developing this because they can push it forward and get it going faster. If we wait for the government to do it, it's never going to get done. It's like, you
Do you
ask your
think it's
lazy
also
teenager to come out and like clean or do the chores, and they're like, I can put it off for like 2 3 days, and then they never do it. So
Do you think it also has to do with the fact that there's not really money to be made on the moon as of
yeah,
right now?
there isn't
There's
much.
no
You can't
incentive.
mine. Yeah, there's not much to
Because
profit
all
off of. All you're doing is spending money to try to push forward. So you're kind of clearing a path for the next people behind you to take advantage and make money off of it. Is kind of how I see it. The government like did
mm,
all this progress to get us to the moon, and then I don't know if this is what they were thinking, but they could have been afraid of, hey, well, once we get there, if private investors start investing it or like start building rockets and start selling trips, then they're making money off
mm,
of our hard work, and it's kind of like, well, what's the point? But if a private investor does it, I mean, it's their money. If they want to throw it down the drain, for the betterment of humanity, I mean, I'll support.
yeah, it's definitely interesting as well because at some point there is going to be those rich kids that are like, "Oh, so how many times has your family been to Mars for a quick summer trip?"
Oh yeah, I went to Hawaii this last summer. Oh really? Well, guess where I went?
Oh,
The moon.
peasant.
Yeah, it's a.
Peasant, you went to Hawaii? Ew. Dude, I went to the shores of New Vegas and on the moon.
Oh yeah, dude, that's gonna be like the new all the new like what are you gonna call it? The next, not the Gen Z, but the Gen A2. We have to
A2,
recycle.
just
We have to go around. Um, but
boomer mini.
Boomer Minis, Boomer V2. Yeah, but they're gonna be like, oh, a peasant going only to Hawaii. You know how little money that costs now? How cheap it is? Imagine not
Dude,
going
you
to the
can get there
moon
in
for
30
summer
minutes from
vacation.
LA.
Dude, I'm at. Okay, how fast do you think, um, or how much faster do you think we can get planes going? Because I feel like we've
Well, they
kind of reached a point where we can't really travel much faster without like space travel, if you know what I mean. Like,
they've made supersonic like passenger jets before. It's just the issue is they're expensive.
oh yes, yeah,
And
that's
so
with
it's
everything.
kind of like space travel. Or back in the day, cars used to be so expensive that only, the elite could afford it. So it didn't make sense to make a ton of them. But then
Yeah,
once they got cheaper, Ford saw that, now that more people can afford it, excuse me, we should make it cheaper so that, we can get more sales. So I think that eventually we will get supersonic flight for, our commercial flights. But I think after that, it's more or less going to peak.
yeah, because I don't know how much faster you can really get, because it's such like it
There's so
would.
much strain on the plane.
Yeah, well that, and then it's just like it's not feasible to send a rocket from the U.S. to India or whatever. Like it doesn't make sense to try and go all the way up into orbit, fly over, and then come back down and try and land. So I think you're right with the supersonic jets. I think that's about as far as we're gonna get, and then it's just gonna kind of that's gonna be the peak, and it's gonna plateau after that. We're not gonna. I don't
Yeah,
think
and
terrestrial travel is gonna get much faster than that.
an interesting one that I read about someone just kind of talking about, no real big money behind this was if you wanted, you could send a rocket up and have it go against the rotation of the Earth, like in the opposite direction that it's rotating, and that would technically speed up the travel because the point's technically moving closer to you and you're moving closer to it,
Yeah, I
and you
saw
could
this.
take like a parabolic path.
I don't know what they call it, but I saw it on Facebook one day. Or my friend showed me like a Facebook post of like, why have we never thought of this? What if you just went up, stayed, kind of hovered, let the Earth rotate underneath you, and then land back down, like on a plane?
Yeah,
And I
so
wonder,
that
like, why is that like actually faster than, like,
no,
if we
no,
time?
that's why we didn't do it because
Oh,
it's slower. Because think about it. Let's say
I mean, how fast
or
does the Earth rotate?
it's both slower and faster. Because if you want to get to somewhere that the Earth is like rotating you away from, like let's say you want to go from like LA to I don't know, New York, and let's say the Earth is rotating the other direction, you're gonna need to wait until it goes all the way around before you can then go back down versus just flying straight there.
I guess, yeah.
But if you wanted to go, let's say, hypothetically, from like LA to Tokyo, you could just kind of hover there and then wait for it to rotate around for you. But I think that would also require you to get pretty high up to escape into somewhat of like a mini orbit.
Which way does the Earth rotate? Does the Earth clockwise or counterclockwise? I just realized I've never really paid attention.
Dude, you don't feel it rotating?
Oh yeah, dude.
According to my sources, counterclockwise,
Now, is that looking at it from the South Pole or the North Pole? Because that makes
North
it.
Pole.
And that, you said counterclockwise.
Yeah, when viewed above the
Weird.
North Pole, it is going counterclockwise,
Okay, so yeah,
as well as every other planet in our solar system except for Venus and Uranus.
dude, Uranus, it rotates like sideways, doesn't it?
Yeah, it almost like its poles are not
Its poles are
in.
east and west instead of north and south.
Yeah,
That's
and then
weird.
I think that Venus just goes the other way.
Venus goes against the grain. It's a
It's an emo kid.
it's the emo planet. It's got to be different, you know. It's rocking the dark clothes.
It's got all the
off.
rings instead
It's
piercings.
yeah, it's the edgy teenager. Someone better deal with that.
So, when do you think we are going to realistically leave the Milky Way with people?
The Milky Way, bro.
Or not the Milky Way. I just meant our solar system, not the Milky.
Okay, our local system. Actually, what isn't there a name for our local system?
Yeah, but no one cares.
Okay, well, I'm sure there's someone out there that cares, but
Well, that not us.
yeah,
Not to college kids who are neither studying any form of space.
yeah. Anyways, I would see in like maybe the next 10,000 years if we make it that long.
If we
But
make it that long.
I feel like that's so long.
See, but here's the
I
thing
don't
that
have like an
it,
easy way to comprehend like how far out is it really? Because I mean, if you think about it, we had no idea like technology and like computers existed until what, the 60s, the 50s maybe? I think it was 50s.
yeah.
And it's like from the 50s till now, it's a huge jump. Like it went
Well,
from
technological
literally
growth
nothing
is
to
exponential with computers. So,
'cause, like,
who's to say that we won't make a supercomputer that can just go, oh, just do this?
I just think
Duh,
it's so weird though, because like we spent
dumbass.
so long inventing the wheel, and then it took so long to invent electricity, and then it took 50 years to build computers that can like render 3D graphics and build insane video games and high quality movies and CGI. Like we went from literally acting in black and white with no sound actually. Silent movies. We went from silent movies to having full CGI animated movies in 100 years.
Well, here's an interesting one for
Actually, in
you. It
less
took
than
about
100 years.
it took about 4 times longer to go from copper swords to steel swords than it took to go from steel swords to having the first nuclear bomb.
See, that's just crazy to me. Like, what? So does that mean
Um,
like we'll maybe leave the solar system in like the next 100 years, or is
it
that
could, or
still?
it could take much longer. We don't really have an idea because space travel is so new. That's the thing about it.
Yeah, so it's still a frontier. It is the final frontier, as Captain Kirk would say.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing because well, let's think about it. The first like manned plane. Let's see here. The first manned plane was December of 1903, and 66 years
Wilbur
later,
Wright.
we're on the moon.
Was it Wilbur or Orville Wright? It was one of those two.
Uh,
It was the Wright
something like that.
brothers.
I think the first one was technically some dude in France.
Was it really? Oh.
Yeah.
Well, there goes my whole childhood of believing Orville and
Oh no, no, no.
Wilbur
Here we go.
Wright.
The Wrights made the first sustained controlled power heavier than air in
Okay.
North Carolina, 4 miles in 1903. So
Damn, 4 miles in
nine,
1903.
1903, and then 1969, we are putting people on the moon.
That's true. That is a huge gap. Or, I mean, well, that's a
66 years.
huge distance to cover in such a short time.
Yeah, 66 years to go from, hey, we can go in one direction. We can't turn. We can't steer. We don't know if we're going to live.
But we can
In
get off the
66
ground.
years later, we can say this computer has successfully calculated the fact that we are going to succeed in landing on the moon with 90% success.
Yeah, that's some pretty fast growth right there.
Like, there's no way you can
So that makes
really
me wonder, like,
predict.
in our lifetime, will we get a chance to go to Mars?
I think that we will. I think not me and you. I don't think it's going to be commercially available.
But to
But I
someone,
think
it
that
will be available.
mhm,
Some rich
I
person who
think the
would pay the
first
money.
person
Kanye
will
West
be
will buy his way over there to the moon or
dude,
Mars.
one of the SoundCloud artists that blow up, Lil Pepe.
Little Pepe.
Dude, it's a little minecart
Oh
pays
man,
his way to go to the moon.
that would be sick. That would be sick. That is the end game right there. That is.
Dude,
It
get the
would be
first
super sick.
SoundCloud upload from
But
Mars.
here's the thing is, I also wondered this. It is incredibly difficult to, like, control a colony so far away. I mean, you saw how the British controlled the American colonies, how poor that was. Of course, they only had ships and written communication of papers,
But
so
but what do we have that's so much better? It took 3 months for or something. Let's see, how long did it take for the British to sail to the U.S.?
I don't know. But either way, like, are we going to be able, if we build a colony on the moon, would we have to control them? Or would we have a third party control it? Would they be on their own and just get funding from certain governments? Like, let's say if America decided to put a colony on the moon, would America have to control that colony, or would America just fund the colony and the colony runs itself? But
Well,
if we
I
send up
think it.
if we send up
Sorry, you
people
can go.
from other nations as well as America, who controls it? Who
I don't.
decides?
Well, and that also brings up the question of what if Elon makes a colony up there? Does he
Does
have
he
to pay
control it?
taxes?
Yeah, there's a lot of other things that it's like we have
So,
this new land. It's not just new land, it's a new planet. It's a new body. It's just its own thing. So how do we rewrite laws to, you know, control that?
Yeah, I'm not sure. So, it says here, according to Google, that it would take about 6 weeks to 3 months for the British to sail to the U.S.
Dang.
And it wouldn't be a stretch to say that it takes a little longer to fly to Mars. Let's see.
I think
How
it's like
long?
3 months to Mars because the rover they were
7 months to
seven
fly to
months.
Mars.
All right, definitely twice as
So
long as
let's
what I
say
said. Yeah.
let's just say that, the Mars settlers decide they no longer like Elon Musk, and they just,
They just
shoot
dip.
like the 12 Mars
They
cops that
just
are
jump off
there,
the Mars. The Mars. They just jump off Mars.
right? Would let's say they do that. They blast the Mars cops, the like dozen of them that there are, because they're not going to be sending people there prone to crime to Mars, because Elon's hand picking who
Yeah.
he sends. Would do you think that they would receive things like foreign aid? Like, do you think that, because obviously their big thing is going to be, it's really hard to make a self-sufficient colony.
Yeah. It's pretty
So,
difficult to just off the bat go. All right, you're on your own. Run your own community. But like at the same time, you can't have full control over it. Otherwise, it's gonna end in failure
mhm.
or them overthrowing you, like the Americans to the British.
What I really want to know is how would it be governed? Would it be governed as a new state? Like, let's say the U.S. does it, and claims that it's theirs, and blah blah blah, right? Gets full permission that it is theirs, and everyone just agrees that it is theirs. Um, how would they treat it? You think it would be a state? You think it would be a territory like Guam?
I think it would be Outer Worlds. Have you ever played that game? It's
I've definitely thought about it. It looks very
it's pretty
enjoyable.
fire. They have Halcyon, which is essentially the corrupt government that runs the whole solar system, and they essentially just bully everyone into control. So, it may just be my optimism, but I definitely think that's where it's looking to head. Definitely
Um,
not just my optimism, but
because what I think would be the main issue is, there's the whole thing of people like it when they get to choose who represents them, and they like it when they're represented. But do
yeah,
you think that a Mars colony would fall into the same boat that something like Puerto Rico is in, where they're, a part of a country, but
they're not
they aren't
independent.
quite
Yeah, they're
a
not
full
apart.
part?
They're not separate, and they're kind of just in
Hmm.
limbo.
Do
So
you
like,
think
would,
that?
would the people on Mars would they want to be called Martians? Would they want to have their own like flag or whatever, their own like national anthem, or would they want to be a part of their home country? Like it's kind of hard to like figure
Yeah,
out.
because a lot of the time in history, new identities were created in the colonies because of a lack of connection to,
With the
the
other,
old one.
yeah,
Like, some Venezuelan isn't going to relate to Spanish culture in the 1800s because they're so far away, they've never been to Spain, and they don't really see the Spanish government. They don't have any reason to care more about the Spanish government and identity than their local government
but nowadays
would.
we're so well connected with everyone. Some
Hmm.
people could feel connected with some place that they've never even been to.
Yeah, like, because especially, you could see a lot more of, you know, impact and access, I guess, uh, from the government that's supporting this colony, because it's not like going to a new world, or sorry, a new like continent where there's like everything you need there. You are going to somewhere barren and trying to build up.
Yeah.
So there's going to be constantly people coming from the main planet to bring supplies and crap to like build it up.
So you kind of have to keep a good rapport and a good like relationship with those countries. I don't. I feel like it's going to be very similar to the American colonization, where it's a group of, adventurous people who want to explore, who are doing it just for the sake of getting out there and seeing what's beyond. And then it's going to result in other people trying to take advantage of the profit that can be made off of it. And then it's going to result in controlling governments and trying to control land, and probably some kind of like, space war. It'll be like, Destiny 2 breaks out and Cosmodrome has gone down, and big mess. But I don't know. Or it could be the exact opposite. We could send colonists up there. They understand what they're doing is for the better, and that they just kind of have to follow orders and build, and understand that while they're not completely a part of a country, they're not completely separate either. So it could
Hmm.
go. It could go either way. Just depends who you send up there.
Yeah, well, also, you gotta think about, like, would it be like kind of, how they don't ever station like when you're in the army or the air force or whatever, you get sent to somewhere for like a preset amount of time. Like you go do a tour in Afghanistan, and I believe that's like 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can either do another tour or you get shipped home. Do you think that they would do that with Mars, or do you think that they would want something more like you go there and you're there, no backing out?
I feel like they'd have to let them back out if they really wanted to, just because otherwise I don't think they'd get enough people that would want to go up there. And I don't think it's good to force someone to stay up there, because then you're limiting, the uh, diversity that you're going to have on the new world. So if we
Mm.
wanted to build a new world, we want, a decent amount of diversity. So you'd want to send a couple different, people up there, but it
But would
depends. And a lot of times I don't think a lot of the people can just stay there. I don't know where
Yeah,
I'm
and
going with
also
this.
how would that amount of time away from Earth like psychologically impact someone? That's something we have no idea.
Yeah, we don't really know how. I mean, if you've watched The Martian with what's that? Matt Damon? Is that? I
Yeah, I
think
think it was
so.
him.
Dude, that really it makes you fear. It makes you go, I'm glad there's other people doing it besides me. Like that movie put the fear in me of space travel, and how freaky it could be to be left there and just abandoned and feeling so far away. Like it's pretty freaky. But at the same time, there's some people that are, obsessed with that and love that and would be willing to do that. So I think you have to give the people the option to return home. Um, I don't think you could force them to stay up there. I mean, you could probably, talk with them and go, hey, so I know you want to go home, but like 2 more years, please, and maybe some, profit on the side for you for your efforts and staying there another 2 years. But
Give a little context. The longest someone has stayed in the ISS specifically is 437 days.
so over a year,
Little over a year. What's that? Like a
year
year
and a
and
third.
4 months.
Yeah.
And the average time on the space station is about 6 months.
Ooh.
Now, we've established it takes about 7 months to get to Mars. So someone would be on this ship about as long as someone like a normal
Would be
astronaut is
stationed in the
on the
ISS.
ISS.
And not only are you going to be on that ship for 7 months, it's a 14-month turnaround trip,
Round trip. Yeah,
but you're expected to stay there a couple of years. So let's assume it's a 10-year uh,
contract thing.
contract. So you're there for 10 years. That's 10 years plus 14 months.
134 months.
That's a long time. That's a long. I don't know if
We've never left someone in space that long.
maybe they'd have to cut it down. Maybe 5 years. But then it would. But see, there's the problem, because if it's
If
five
you do
years,
too many
that's if we
trips,
do
you're wasting time, you're wasting
exactly.
resources.
Well, you're spending a lot of money and resources on just getting people to and fro, not necessarily even building. So I feel like you would have to do really long, extended, like 10-year contracts. Maybe you could go 7 years, but
Yeah, it's
it's hard to say.
is it's interesting because on the one hand, if you if you want someone to be able to have the choice to back out, you know, yeah, you wouldn't be able to let people back out, is what I am thinking with our current setup, because you just wouldn't have the resources on hand to ship them home.
Yeah. You wouldn't have anything on the planet. You would just have the vessel that you got there on, and most of the time, or I would assume it would probably have enough fuel or enough resources to get you back. Just in case of like an emergency, like you get there and they go, something's wrong. Well, all right, turn around, come back home. But that's no guarantee either. They could say, hey,
Hmm.
you're going to be the first colonists. You're going to stay there until we send a second shipment or a second group out, until we send the betas, the beta group out there to come.
B team.
Yeah, B team. You guys are A team. We'll send out B team in 10 years. But see, that's the other thing, is you'll have to train the people that come. So if, let's say, it's a 10-year contract, you'll have to send people about 5 years in so they can get at least like 2 years, 2 to 3 years of training from the previous group in order to pass the information along. So
Okay, so just to become an astronaut, it takes 2 years of training.
dang, that's a lot.
So, as soon as the first group has left,
They're
you're
already.
pretty much going to be starting the training for the second
Oh
group.
yeah, yeah.
Because you're also going to have to teach them, like, hey, this is specifically what it's like on the, like, hellscape of a planet we're sending you to.
Yeah, well, and you'd have
Uh,
to give like each person a specific job, a specific role. You'd have to train them
mhm.
in that. So be like, all right, you're the dentist, you're the doctor, you're gonna be in charge of agriculture.
Well,
Here's
and
what
that
your fellow friend is doing up there right now. Here's what you're gonna be doing.
now that's where Starlink could become helpful because they could effectively, if they somehow got it, so you could connect from Mars to some sort of internet service, they could have it so that if, like, let's say you've got Group A there, and they've been working there for about a year, so they've got, their routine down, they could send, like, video logs of, like,
That's true.
how to do, what to do.
It would make it a lot, because then you could train the people on Earth, and then save
Hmm.
some time, I guess, by sending them
With,
out a
like,
little bit later.
hmm and they could also be like, hey, this is a thing that sometimes breaks. Here's how I repair it.
Yeah.
Here's, like, what you'll need, and then they can send, like, extra of that on the next ship.
Mm-hmm. That is pretty smart. I didn't think to consider that.
It's definitely something, because also like there's a lot of random things that are, like, completely normal on Earth that you would need to send on a ship. Dirt, dirt to grow crops if
Yeah.
we're gonna have them produce their own
Fertilizer,
food. You're gonna need to send dirt.
water, oxygen.
Yeah.
Although the idea hopefully is that we can set up an ecosystem or like a bubble with
Hmm.
plants
A
to
biosphere.
yeah, biosphere, so you can have just recurring oxygen that you just get from plants and photosynthesis, but that's also a whole
Hmm.
nother process.
It's
Man, there's so much that goes into this. I didn't even think about this.
yeah, it's very much a complex issue because there's so many just basic things that you have to worry about. Obviously, people would think, oh, solar power. The planet doesn't have, like, a atmosphere really, so solar power would work great. But
Solar
then you gotta think
powers.
about the sand.
Well, yeah, that's well, and also solar power isn't super effect or efficient. It's
But it's renewable.
it's
That's the thing.
renewable, which is good, but it's like you need
And
a
it's
lot of solar panels and a lot of time to generate enough power to supply it like a biosphere, biodome, or even just like
hmm
a house.
well, you also need batteries because obviously you still need power at night.
Shit, yeah.
So you need to send a bunch of batteries and a bunch of solar panels, and the benefit is you get renewable energy. But then the question is does the benefits of that renewable, pay off the amount of extra effort you have to go through, or should we look into like small nuclear generators, like power? Because nuclear is produces a shit ton of power.
Yeah, see, and people are afraid of nuclear, but it's actually not that bad. People are like,
No,
the waste. It lingers, I mean, radioactive material, it takes time to decay. Yes, but I'm pretty sure it produces less waste overall compared to like landfills or like fossil fuel.
yeah, it does. But the issue with it is you need very particular sets of skills, and you also need to be constantly operating it.
That's
It's
true.
not, something that it's not like a Honda generator in your backyard. You can't just
All right,
walk
guys,
away
just,
from
just
it.
shut it down for the evening. We're done. Turn
Or
off the
I'm gonna
nuclear.
go on a 5 minute break. Someone
Someone watch the
maybe
nuclear for
watch it.
me. I'll,
You
I'll
have
set my
to,
5-year old out there. He can watch it. He won't touch anything. All of a
because you
sudden,
also
you see
have
on
to
the
think
news,
about.
all right, nuclear plant on Mars exploded, splitting planet in half.
Mars got the
Chunks of Mars
Fukushima
goes
treatment.
flying. Yeah, oh god.
But you also have to consider, nuclear to me is the best option for power on another planet because you also need to send very little, like raw nuclear material
But the thing
compared
is,
to.
we don't
But
really
but
know
here's the thing.
how nuclear would react on a planet with no atmosphere. Like, would that affect the process of like a nuclear power plant? Would they have to like reinvent a power plant specifically for a atmosphereless planet? Like,
Well, I don't think so because wouldn't it be in the biodome?
I guess you could put it in the
Because you
biodome.
would need people operating it,
Yeah,
and that's another thing. People. How many people are you going to be sending is a very important thing to consider.
yeah,
Um, because like ideally you want a good number of people there, but the more people you send, the more food. But the more people you send, the more food you can make and the more stuff you can operate, but that just means you need more space. You need more living quarters.
yeah. So there's some kind of balance there.
And then if it's co-ed, is there a chance we're going to potentially have to give a space abortion because, everyone has a job, no one can take off time to raise a child?
Space abortion.
Dude, because think
Is
about
that
it.
what
No
we're
one's
calling
just.
it? The
That's why I'm
new
calling it. You can call it what you want.
Planned Parenthood has opened up a. Is Planned Parenthood the one that does abortion, or is that the
Yeah,
opposite?
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's them.
Yeah, Planned Parenthood has opened up a Mars clinic now.
Because no one goes to Mars, at least where we're at right now, without a job.
Yeah, yeah,
You go to Mars and you have a job.
yeah. And if you have a
You are.
kid, like there's no way you're gonna do your job and raise a kid. Like,
Mm,
people can't do that on
That's
Earth. What makes you think you're gonna do that in creating while creating a whole new colony?
unless we're gonna
Well,
do
I
the
don't think
thing that
Christopher
like.
Columbus at his stop in America was like, yes, let me raise kid now. I've explored most of America, which I think is India, but nah.
Let
Time
me
to
just
raise kid.
pop a kid real quick.
So I don't think
So
that's how that works.
the only job I could see that space children being useful for, space child labor,
Oh god,
um,
no, no. They're gonna
no,
have all
is
kinds of labor laws.
dude. There's no child
Get the
labor laws in
unions.
space.
Start up the unions.
Is on the farms. That's like the only spot I can think of because that would be like the only like quote unquote unskilled labor. Because there's not gonna be like a shop that like a space teenager can work in. Like it's gonna have to be like when Americans were coming west, they were like, oh, I have 8 children. Nah, you don't get to go to school. You're working on the farm.
Yeah, you don't get an option.
I don't care. You can't read.
They were born for the sole purpose of, yeah, you're gonna help me on the farm, and then you're gonna take over the farm after I die.
At the
That's
ripe old age of 38.
Yeah, that was their whole purpose. So
But obviously, that wouldn't even be ideal for space because you have to raise that child. That child still has to be brought up to, whenever they can like water crops.
Yeah, and it's a different type of thing. I mean, when you're raising
Hmm.
a kid to work on a farm, it's very different than raising a kid to operate a colony on another planet. That's
Yeah,
going to need
and
some
so
teaching, you know. A
that
kid,
brings up the question: is Elon? Because I'm just assuming that he's going to be the one making this colony. It applies to anyone. Does he have the right to say that you don't have the right to have a child?
that's another,
Because
yeah.
he would have to say, look, no kids. Because it's either
Nada.
only send up one gender,
Or just tell them
or
you can't.
declare no children are allowed to be born. So would that mean that he would want to sterilize everyone before they go up? Would he want to just hope and trust that they wouldn't do anything?
Yeah, there's a lot
Like,
of factors.
how would that work?
Well,
Because
I also thought
obviously,
of the option of, okay, what if we sent up some nannies, right? What if we hired a bunch of nannies to go up and take care of those
but
kids? But then
that's a waste of
that
resources.
is because I was thinking about that and I was like, that would be so easy. But then you think about, well, if there aren't any kids, they're kind of just sitting around doing nothing, taking food and oxygen. So,
Hmm.
not
And like,
really
sure, they could
useful.
perform a job if you wanted, but at that point, why not just send up normal people to do those jobs, you know?
Yeah. I
So
think
it's,
the initial group wouldn't be allowed to, but maybe a couple groups in, after the colony's been decently set up to maintain itself.
but
Maybe
how do you pitch that? Hey,
I know.
I'm taking away your right to have kids.
Yeah. Well, that's where the idea of we're sending up people that would volunteer for this, or would go up under the guidelines of, hey, I understand I'm doing this for a greater cause. I'll accept that I can't do this now, but in the future it's a possibility. But as of right
Yeah,
now,
but also you can't predict with people. Like you could send up two people who both agree that like, oh, I'm not gonna have kids with anyone on Mars, but then they fall in love or whatever, and then have sex, and then oopsie, no space condom because Elon didn't send us space condoms, and his pullout game was trash.
there was a hole in mine. I
In my
swear.
non-existent.
Yeah.
So I think it's just something that's like it's very hard to prevent without directly going like, "Hey,
Yeah. It is.
vasectomy time."
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting when we get to that to see how they move forward with that. Whether
Because
they
inevitably that's
that's
gonna
going
be
to be an issue
something.
that they have to come up and solve and deal with. So it'll be interesting to see how they deal with that.
Yeah. Also, what type of money are they gonna use? Are they gonna use U.S. dollars? Is Elon gonna print his own currency
They're going to
and
use Glimmer.
regulate it?
Glimmer, the
Are they
same.
gonna use Dogecoin?
They're going to use Bitcoin. That's what they're going to be using.
Dude, Dogecoin is up to like 5 cents, I believe. Let's see. How much is Dogecoin worth? Let's
What
see
is
this.
wait? So what is Dogecoin?
Dude, Dogecoin is up to 5 cents.
Oh man.
It's like Bitcoin except it was a meme.
Yeah, I figured. I figured.
Uh,
Man, those people
they made
that
it as a
invested in
joke,
Bitcoin back in the day,
dude.
could have been me. Could have been me.
Right now, one Bitcoin or one bit dollar, as I like to call it. Uh, okay, sorry. One Bitcoin is worth $39,000
Oh
and some
man.
change.
Oh
Um,
man. Oh.
apparently, the money of Bhutan is just called a Bhutan currency, according to
So how many
a
Bhutan currencies is one Bitcoin?
dude, let's see here, dude, because I'm on like a converter right now, and it just says Bhutan
Bhutan
currency.
currency. What is
One
Bhutan?
Bitcoin.
Boo.
What is Bhutan?
Who is Bhutan? Why is Bhutan?
Why is Bhutan?
Oh wait, I know what this country is. Okay.
Yeah, they're the one in Hoi where if you go the no-no ideology, they're the Thunder Dragon Empire.
Yep, yep. Right there next to Bangladesh and what is
Nepal,
Panta?
India.
Is that one country? Wait, what is that part of India?
Yeah, India's got states like the U.S.
No,
It's
but I mean
kind of
like you see
weird.
India on Are you looking at Google Maps right now?
Yeah, I just loaded up Google Maps. I'm going over to Bhutan.
Right
Which
under
one are you talking
Bhutan,
about?
there's like this chunk of land. I think it belongs to India still, but it like loops around Bangladesh.
Yeah, the little corridor.
That's weird. Yeah, there's this
Yeah,
tiny little
that's India.
sliver.
Yeah, it's
It's like
India. It's
India has
very
its own
messy.
little India.
Yeah, and then on the right of Bangladesh, there's like a little mini India chunk.
Yeah, yeah. Mizoram and Meghalaya, Nagaland.
Yeah.
I'm butchering all these names, I'm sure.
Oh, I can guarantee it.
Man,
I couldn't do it any better.
all of these Indian
Dude, our massive Indian
listeners,
fan base is
our
gonna
huge
roast you in
Indian
the
fans,
comments.
I know it. It's gonna come back to bite
Dude,
me.
you're gonna get absolutely clapped in the comment
Yeah.
section.
Well,
It's gonna be rough for you.
it will be, and I think on that note, we should wrap things up. We've hit our hourly quota. I think.
Alright, let's go to my favorite section of this podcast. And it's called How Stupid Is ... And we're gonna pull something up on the Darwin Awards for this episode. Just the top result. And we're gonna rate how stupid it is. And in other weeks we will accept submissions from
Drop
from the
something in the
fans.
comments, and we will, rate how stupid something is.
We also can
Or
do a section called
maybe how not stupid it is. There are some things, believe it or not, in this world that aren't stupid.
I will be sending it to my co-host here. And would you like to read it?
Where did you? Oh, there we go. Let's see. So the Darwin Awards. We have the pinnacle of stupidity.
This is a 2020 Darwin Award winner. Would you like to read it, or would you like me to?
I'll have you read it.
All right. So on the 28th of October, 2019, in Japan. So he's speaking here. Hands are numb, but most must operate smartphone, muttered a 47-year-old. I'm not going to be able to pronounce that name. We're going to say Ted to his live stream audience as he skied and skidded and stumbled up the snow-covered Japanese trail of Mount Fuji.
Shubashiri.
Do you want to read it?
Okay.
You forget I have dyslexia and also am terrible at
I can't
reading.
read either. I'm illiterate.
Oh, fuck. You're illiterate. I'm dyslexic. All right.
All right. Well, this has come to an.
I wish I had brought heat packs. He lamented, and then he was heard to say, "Wait, I think I am slipping." 62 miles west of Tokyo, iconic Mount Fuji is one of Japan's three holy mountains, a 12,389-foot volcanic summit visited by religious pilgrims, mountain climbers, and sightseers. This trek is cold and slippery, and even during the brief summer season, when amity stations are staffed and available for the benefit of climbers in the off-season, the stations are closed and mountain conditions are downright hostile and inhospitable. A winter climber needs proper gear, climbing experience, and a booster pack of common sense. Apparently, this man had none of those. Poor Ted. Um, he was wearing street clothes for a typical October day in Tokyo, and he had nothing other than a pair of climbing poles. Ted's already doing pretty rough.
Climbing poles, that's something.
Ted fired up his smartphone and proceeded up the
Shubashiri Trail.
Which, incidentally, most climbers use only for descent. Live streaming for the
Kaneko. Video
video sharing
sharing.
platform. He entitled his video, "Let's Go to Snowy Mount Fuji." In hindsight, the title implies that Ted considered Snowy Mount Fuji as safe as a ski resort or Christmas tree farm.
Oh boy.
Viewers began tuning in, following his happy jaunt up the ash-covered trail. Ashes soon turned to snow, and then to deep snow. Ted's viewers were now being treated to a litany of complaints about cold, numb hands and a bitter lack of hot packs. I thought that said hot pockets, and I was very much relating to
I
Ted.
mean, lack of hot pockets is something to complain about. I will say.
Um,
I have a lack of hot pockets, and I am in fact complaining.
Me too, man. Those watching might have started to feel a bit badly for Ted. This was a very good time for him to turn back and resume life. Keyword of relative
Anonym, anon, anonymity,
normalness. A
anonym.
turning
No, it's
point,
anonymity.
a normal life. A turning point, as it were. But the urge to continue, perhaps motivated by reluctance to disappoint his viewer, encouraged Ted to trudge farther into obvious and imminent danger. Continuing social media commentary as he juggles climbing poles and his smartphones in his frost-bitten mitts. Ted demonstrates a classic case of misplaced priorities when he states that despite numb extremities, he must continue to operate his live stream. His viewers no doubt noticed that the trail had suddenly become narrower, the protective fence had ended, and he is perilously close to the brink. He has now passed the point of no return. There is absolutely nothing his viewers could do except tune out in disbelief or perhaps place wagers among themselves on his odds of returning intact.
I say a
Oh,
solid 10%.
I'm giving him like an 8. The street clothes are what got me. Oh, this place is getting slippery, getting dangerous, he blatantly notices. I'm trying to walk by the rocks. Yes, rocks. It's a steep downhill. Does his audience hear
The
the
reassuring
reassuring sound
Oh my god.
of Krampus gripping the ice as he continues past the end of the safety fence into uncertain territory? Of course not. He did not bring those. Oh wow, this is kind of long. Whatever. The slope at that point is 30 degrees, as anyone watching could see. In his continuous play-by-play march along an increasingly risky path, Ted frequently cautions himself against falling. Some of his viewers might have given a wry chuckle at his situation, realizing of what he had gotten himself into. His inappropriate footwear now begins failing him as he trips and stumbles on.
Dude, those Nikes,
More than
not meant for the
dude,
snow.
he's got the chanclas.
Oh, the chanclas. Poor man. Poor Ted.
More than once, he asks himself whether he is on the right track. Viewers already know the answer.
They knew the answer
close,
from the beginning.
astonishingly close to the summit for an amateur winter hiker, Ted at last utters the anticlimactic words, "Wait, I'm slipping." Uh, that's not good. Experienced Mount Fuji climbers say, if you start slipping, you have one chance at self-arrest before it's too late. Even now, Ted might drop his phone and jab his climbing poles into the ground. But no, in an instant, it becomes apparent that his smartphone is the more intelligent one. Still live streaming away, Ted begins an uncontrolled slide down the rocky, snowy slope. Viewers are treated to a spectacle of feet flailing and poles tumbling free. A few seconds later, the phone footage abruptly stops. The final chilling images shows a climbing pole frozen in mid-flight. So then they called the authorities and they found him dead. I'd like to remind you, he's
Wait,
47.
this guy actually died?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
jeez.
Darwin Awards. They removed themselves from the population.
Oh my god. Oh, I thought this guy got out alive, not gonna lie. I did not understand
So,
what the Darwin Award was.
um,
Oh.
so yeah, he didn't make it. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being he was completely logical and this was just an unfortunate accident. 10 being he might as well have been asking for it. What would you rate this, Kyle?
I'd say like a solid 8. I mean, I don't know what the guy was thinking going up Mount Fuji in October. Was this in October? Or was this in? He was
October.
just wearing. Oh yeah, yeah. So he's wearing October clothing. Like for us, that's like a jeans and like maybe a flannel over a shirt. You're not when you see snow on a mountain, you do not think, ah yes, jeans and a flannel are enough.
All
No,
right,
that's
so
like
I pulled out. It said average. He was near Tokyo. That's where Fuji is. So the average low in October in Tokyo is 58 degrees, and the high is 71.
okay, yeah, that's
So he's like sweatpants at best,
yeah.
shorts and a t-shirt at worst. I'd give him like a 7.
See, I would have
He
given
had the
him,
poles.
he did have the poles, but he continued going even after several times he said, is this the right way? I'm trying to walk by the rocks. It's steep. This is getting dangerous. He literally said that on stream. Oh, this place is getting slippery and dangerous.
Yeah,
At that
I don't know.
point, after
The stream
saying,
kind of makes me want to give him an 8 because the stream is like, I don't know. Why are you doing that? Why, like,
well, the
if you're
fact
trying
that
to
he
climb?
also like was trying to stream instead of let me be smart about this and try and save myself. No, he needed to stream. He needed to get to the top.
Dude, he needed to get those Twitch subs.
So that's where I think the 8 comes
Yeah,
in.
I gotta agree. I think
He's
8. He had the poles,
but it's
and
that's not enough. You need more than just
no.
polls, and he just didn't have. He was just not prepared, and I could have been of like, oh, he's not prepared. It could have been like, because I always say, the younger generation, their prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed, so their decision making isn't very, it's not all there. This guy's
He was 47.
He should know better. And the fact that he
Yeah.
still went up, and even after several attempts of, maybe I should turn back, he still kept going. That's where it's like, all right, this guy's not the smartest.
Yeah, I don't think he was the brightest, to be honest. I think that he gets a solid 8, maybe a 9.
Wow.
I'll go with 8.
Have you looked at the results for this?
No, I have not.
Apparently, according to the 5,071 votes, the average score is an 8.2. But
Wow.
45% of the
5%.
votes are 10s, which means like it's pretty skewed one direction.
Yeah.
I say so.
I want to know the 3% that gave him a 0. I'm hoping those are ironic.
I hope so too, because if they believe that is intelligence, it's a little unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's really
Well,
unfortunate
with
that the guy
that,
died, but I mean, he was asking for it.
yeah,
If it
he
could have been
definitely was
avoided,
not
I would.
planning.
I wish he would have avoided it, but there was nothing. There was nothing anyone could do.
No.
Well, on that.
With that, we are going to end for the day, and we hope you've enjoyed.
Yeah.
And we will see you next week.
Alrighty, this was the ADHD Anime Depression at High Definition podcast. We will see you next week. Bye.